Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. I am now in the process of putting this machine back together. I have never seen a Beaumark 3100. I've worked on Janomis of the same era. It could have been produced by Janome, but I don't know for sure. I have no manual, so I've been going through this whole series with you as if you were facing the same thing, because many of you sometimes say, sure, I'll take that machine, and you have no idea. You don't know much about it. You don't know what condition it's in, and even how to set it up for sewing. So I've got my bobbin case, and curiously, the bobbin that's in it is a much older style. Yeah, it's so funny. You never know. You'll get things with sewing machines that didn't come with them originally. I will be testing the bobbin winder at some point, but right now I'm just going to get, I've got a class 15 bobbin this machine takes, and I'm going to just take, this is just for testing purposes. Right now I don't want to test the bobbin winder. Right now I want to test to see if this machine is going to do anything at all in terms of sewing. And so I'm going to, again, the thread is hanging clockwise. And then, again, I'm going to come over, and when you see the little slit there, I'm going to come back counterclockwise, and I now have a threaded bobbin case. And my next, what is my next? Oh, here we go. I was looking for my hook. Now the hook is very common. This is, those of you who have class 15 machines will recognize the hook style. Ah, there we go. I just realized something. Got to take my race cover off. Why? Because got to get the hook in first. And again, with the hook now cleaned, I think, did I clean it? I'm just going to take a cotton swab and go around. There's really not much of anything here, but it doesn't hurt to give it a once over in case there's any grime or goop. I always do this to machines. This machine is cleaner than many. You know, sometimes people just didn't enjoy sewing that much. Now, what I'm going to do is, there are different ways to do this. I want to make sure that I have some lubrication, but very little. So I could go in here and try to lubricate the race, but I think it's easier if I go in with my hook. And I'm going to put a drop here, 2, 3, and that's more than enough because this is going to fit, right? So we've got this piece, and the hook fits right like that. I'm not going to turn it yet, and sometimes the oil will help hold the hook in until you can get the race cover back on so that you don't end up with the hook flopping out, which can happen. It's not the end of the world if it does. In fact, it almost did right there. Let's see if we can get our race cover back in without creating too much pandemonium here. There we go. Now I can put in my bobbin case. Wait a minute. Let's get our flippers in place so that the whole thing doesn't come apart. Now, it is time to get our bobbin case. Again, when you install a bobbin case, look for the finger, and the finger goes in one way only. All right, I'm going to leave the door down here for a moment. What's next? Well, I've got the cover. This is the free arm cover that you all saw. And before I put it on, I'm going to snug these down. I found, don't know if all of you remember in a prior video, I noticed that the needle plate was a little loose when I got the machine. And at first I thought that was what was causing the issue. Since I've been looking at this machine, it had more issues than that, but hopefully that's been fixed. Now, let's look at I want to show you something. Whenever you have screws that look the same, for example, there are two screws or bolts that hold the top cover of the free arm to the machine. And here's the other one. However, they're not the same length. So if you forget and you end up, in fact, they even have, I think they have a slightly different head style. You never know how the manufacturer will do this. When you take screws out, pay attention and make a note of where they are. Because if I forgot and I put this one here, it might not hold the lid on properly, because the screws are not always the same length. So let's go ahead and all right, let's get our feed dogs down, our pressure bar up. Now I need my needle out of the way. Thank you. I'm going to come over and get the top lined up. The long screw, longish, right? The one that is, what is that? Maybe not even 3/4 of an inch. It goes here. The fact that this screw has a different head, almost like a countersunk head, it looks more like these screws. I'm wondering if someone lost the original and ended up using this. Either way, it works. But this one is shorter. So never assume that even screws that look the same on a similar section of a machine, it doesn't mean that they can go in either place. And like with all bolts and screws, if it fights you, start over. It means you've cross-threaded it. Don't want to do that. We want to make sure that this piece is snug, because we need to know that it's down as far as it's supposed to go. Now, let's see. Do I have, yep, I've got decent feed dog lift here. And so, as far as I can tell, all right, what's next? How much do we have to put back together? Well, we have this side. Now, I showed all of you this side panel. This side panel is plastic. Don't know if you remember, but when I took it off, before I took this off, I took the top panel of the machine off. Where are you, top panel? Now, this is something that will make a difference. Very often, if you take something apart the right way, you're going to assemble it in the reverse order, and that's really important. So remember, this top lid, change my angle here just a bit so you can see both. There we go. This top lid came off before the side panel. So the side panel needs to go back on before the top does. And when I do put it on, hopefully it will make sense to you as to why. Let me make sure. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, can't do that, can we? Why? Because we've got to get our belt adjusted. And as you go through time, you get more covers and baffles around things like motors and belts. So I've got to get my belt put back on. So we are going to address our hand wheel and our belt. And remember, I have my clutch washer and knob, and I'll just quickly mop up any, like I say, there was grease on here. I'm not putting grease back on this. In fact, I think just a drop or two of sewing machine oil is going to be all. I normally, if I have any kind of bolt that has threads, normally it's oil and not grease that I'm using. So we'll just make sure that we get. Now, keep in mind, these clutch knobs their threads are not always smooth, and they can shred cotton swabs and get fiber, so be mindful of that. All right, let's get our washer. Washer is a little cruddy with grease, a little bit. We'll just wipe that off best we can. All right, so I'm going to put my washer back on, and I'm going to attach my clutch knob. But first I'm going to put a drop or two of sewing oil on there. And after I do this, we have one more thing before we're done with the clutch. Any of you remember what that is? Looking at it now, you should. That is the clutch knob. Some people call it a pin, but it's not a pin. It's a screw, washer screw. Let's see here. Now, this is something you can easily lose if you have large fingers like I do. So just kind of put it there and kind of hold it and get your screw. I'm just going to use a screwdriver tip here. Now, you might be thinking, hey, you didn't put the belt on. No, I didn't put the belt on yet. Oh, by the way, before I touch the belt or mess with the belt, I'm going to wash my hands because I don't want grease or oil getting on that belt. All right, now that I have clean hands, one thing I took a cursory glance at, but we'll look at it a little more closely. This belt very likely is not the original. I don't know that for sure. This looks like a replacement belt. What am I doing with it? I'm just gently curving it, not crushing it, but just looking. I don't see any shredding. I don't see any cracks. This is what is called a lugged belt. And the lugs look like little gear teeth, but they're this is some form of synthetic material. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to put the belt here. And yes, I could have put it on before I attach the hand wheel, but I don't want to get grease or oil on the belt, and I don't need to. Why? Because if you have been watching my videos, you know that when you adjust a belt or install a belt or uninstall a belt, you do so by adjusting the bracket that holds your motor, because your motor, of course, is holding on to your belt pulley, the other belt pulley. So what am I doing? I'm going to loosen the bolt, and I'm going to push up on the bracket. Okay. If you need more than two hands, you can just you can just not fully tighten that bolt, but just get that bolt where it'll hold the motor. And I'm going to slip the belt right on there. Now, we know it needs adjusting, and remember, because we have a cover, we want to do the adjusting before, or you'll have to take the cover back off. Now, notice if I can push the belt in like that, that's too loose. I know this isn't digital accuracy here, but this system does work, I promise you. I've shown it in other videos. I'll show you again. What are you going to do? You are going to loosen the bolt. Whoops, you saw the brackets slide. And what do we want here? How do we know? I'm going to mostly snug the bolt down and test it again. When I push in, when I touch the belt with my finger and I push in, I want to push in about 1/4 of an inch. This is, again, and you may need to adjust from that. And the reason we do this is because we want just enough tension that the belt does not slip and that you get good power transfer. Any more tension simply puts more stress on the motor. Will the motor work? Yes, but it'll shorten its life. So why do that? No point in doing that. And if you err on the side of it, if it's too loose and you hear the belt slipping, we can always add tension. But right now, I'm gonna tighten this bolt. And I snug that a little bit more than most things I tighten because, again, there's tension on the bracket and so forth. So, if I ever oiled that. Okay, so now I'm going to attach my little plastic cover here. And this is something I am not going to tighten very tight. Now, remember, there's a reason why I have not put I'm putting this on before the top. Remember, the top of the machine has little sort of protrusions or pins that are going to surround these there went my screws. They're going to actually sit on either side of these little extrusions, and that's what's going to help hold this little plastic flap, for lack of a better term. Now, when it goes on, it may feel a little weird to you. And what do I mean by that? It's, you know, you think, well, it's not, hold on, I've got little dust bunny issues here on the inside of this. Just gonna, I'm not really doing this for aesthetics. I'm just wanting to, any dust that is, it doesn't have to be, you know, if you want to, you can take cleaner and clean the whole inside. My main concern is to get any loose dust. I don't want that getting sucked back into the motor. Any staining on the inside of the plastic is really inconsequential. Okay, so I have I'm going to line up my panel, and when I go to put it on, it should go on this machine, on this particular model. Notice that the hand wheel is not covering it. For some machines, you're going to have the hand wheel off because the hand wheel is wider than the opening on the panel. In this case, that's not true. Now you might think, oh, is it going to hit the belt? It shouldn't, because look at the shape, right? When you see the shape of this, you'll see that it is designed to go around the belt. Now, right there, it's just sitting, right? And so, make sure that you are holding this if you need more than one hand, because you don't want it to fall. It's old plastic. It will probably crack if it does fall and hit something hard. Now, it just so happens that the screws that hold this panel on are the same length, but that's not always true. And on some of the many Kenmore multi-stitchers from the 70s that I have restored and done videos on, those of you who've seen those videos know that those screws can vary in length, and they only go, if they vary in length, you have to match the screw with the proper hole. So in this case, it won't really affect anything, but I'm going to just put that there. Go ahead and get one. I'm just doing this hand tight with a screwdriver bit. I don't even need the full handle on the screwdriver. Remember, you are putting a plastic panel. All right, let's go back and look at that hole for a moment. Here's the chassis of the machine, and here is one hole, and the other one's right here. Those are in aluminum. So you've got steel screws going into aluminum, and the thing that holds the screw, if I show you the inside, is plastic. So what do you think is going to happen if I over tighten it? Even if it were new, it could cause problems, and we definitely do not want issues with 50-year-old plastic. So we're going to be gentle. The plastic is held up, and we're going to basically, and sometimes it's nice to just do it hand tight. You don't want to be tempted. Now I have to let's make sure that the screw is lined up properly. You'll know because it'll just simply spin and turn, and you won't notice any difference. But once it starts to thread, you'll feel the resistance and you'll know you're on your way. Okay, and I don't even have that fully snug yet, but let's go ahead and get the upper one going. And another way I could do this is take the handle off of my screwdriver and just put the screwdriver tip in the shaft of my, this screwdriver I have disassembles, and I'll just, whoops, nope. These are Phillips, so again, you don't want to strip them. Okay, so I'm just going to turn, and I can tell it just snugged up, and as soon as I felt it give me resistance and got snug, I stopped. And it's fine. You're not going to hurt the plastic as long as you, see if I can get my another screw down here to, okay, and it stopped, and that's it. I'm not doing any more to it because I do not want to crack that plastic. If I do, I'm going to have to try to fuse it back, and it's not gonna play nice. All right, now we have the lid to this machine, and I have one long screw. They used to have more than one, now they've gone down to one, right? There's, you know, having to save is where they can. I'm going to put this on, although I will say at least it has a screw. I'm trying to remember, very often the Kenmore multi-stitchers, you have to, they're held on with sort of a tension pin. Anyway, what can I do? I guess I can go ahead and put one drop on the end of this for good measure. You know, shouldn't have to be done for, you know, decades more. Now, that is a straight head screw, so let's go back to our straight head. They didn't make everything Phillips at this point. I don't know why. I don't know why they have different screw types. Who knows? A lot of modern machines have screws. I think they're called security Torx, T-O-R-X. Am I spelling that right? Anyway, again, with this, even though it's aluminum, I just snugged it tight, but no over tightening is required. What do we got left, everyone? All right. We have, I don't hear my feed dogs hitting anything. Now, this is my needle, and as I suspected, it is a front to back threading system, right? So I like that, that's great. And it'll help if I put the foot on. Oops. All right, we have a foot. We have a needle. I do not know if this needle's any good, so I am taking it off. Who knows? It could be a good needle or not, but I can't guess. I can't look at a needle and tell. And I just, it's, you know, part of my normal thing to put a new needle in. So this is a jeans needle. It's Schmetz brand. Took me a minute to, it's a mouthful. And of course, I'm looking, we're talking about installing a needle in any machine. Remember, home sewing needles, thankfully, have not changed in over 100 years. And I'm looking for the flat side. The top of the needle shaft, right? The very top of it is going to be round except for one side that's flat. And as soon as I see that flat side, that's the side that's going to face the back. Those of you who have newer machines, that won't surprise you because of course it does, but not always on most vintage machines. So I'm going to loosen my thumb screw up here, and I'm going to make sure I'm putting the needle in, go all the way up till it stops, hold the needle when you are tightening your thumb screw so that the needle doesn't slip. All right, yep, and there's my groove. I should feel the groove facing me. I'm going to be threading away, and now we need some top thread. And I have found a brightly colored thread to contrast with my red bobbin thread, and I have a spool of purple, and I like using colors that will contrast with the fabric. It helps me and any prospective purchaser test the quality of the stitch. So I guess all that's left now is to thread this puppy, and we'll get the foot pedal and plug in, and we will see if it works. But I appreciate all of you watching this. In the next video, I'll actually show you how to thread the machine, or at least how I think it needs to be threaded. Maybe I know, maybe I don't. We're about to find out. And then from there, we're going to do some test stitching. Thank you all for watching, hanging in there with me as I go through trying to understand what a Beaumark 3100 is and how in the world we get it to sew again. See you in the next video, everyone.